everybody. Welcome to the Dojo. My name is Cameron Prim. Happy to have the opportunity to moderate episode number 214. 2.14 rules today. Mr. True, I see that your hand's raised, so why don't you just go ahead and get us kicked off. It's good to see you today. Good to see everyone. You're muted.
Okay. Hi, Cameron. Hi, James. Hi, everybody. Okay, Cameron, you're the moderator. I've got some things I need to say, and it's really important. I'm going to be focusing on you since you're the moderator, and I need your help. If you get any hint that I'm triangulating, just do something like high sign, let me know, so I can bring it back to the point of the conversation here. And that's really important that I say up front.
Absolutely. Maybe. Okay. And I trust that you're going to start by telling us what the point of the conversation is.
Yeah. The point of the conversation is my original intention for being here was help on witnessing, and I've got a session with James one-on-one this afternoon. But I had a very strong emotional reaction to James's post. James and I have touched on it about transgenderism. And I'm feeling very angry right now. Mostly at myself, because I have people that I love that are struggling to come into their own identity, and I have not been very supportive. And I need to understand why and express why my truth for me without like trying to rescue anybody. Okay. My personal experience is that this is a real phenomenon. It's a natural phenomenon. It is something energetic, the evolution of humanity. And we're coming into the Aquarian age. Who's the water bearer? I'm 90% water. You're 90% water. We're all the water bearer. And what these young people, in my experience in witnessing for someone who's going through it for the last 2 years, is that this is an organic process, a struggle for authenticity and identity. And so what really flipped my switch on this and helped me begin to understand was James's axis of androgyny, and I can't remember what's on the other end of that, and hermaphrodism going this way. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. I know people that are struggling with this. What's on the other side of the androgyny axis?
You got it. You said hermaphrodite. So hermaphrodite would be male female on, and androgyny would be male female off.
Yes.
Male female's the other. I'm looking for the axes now, but yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to make sure I was accurate on that. I believe, and it's my experience because, hey, I got my Heyoka shirt on. I didn't even realize I was putting it on today. I'm a Heyoka. I know a shaman when I see one. James is a shaman. I know shamans, excuse me. Anybody ever seen the movie Little Big Man?
I have not, Drew.
Okay. In Little Big Man, it's really the story about Turtle Island. Okay, so it's about this kid who's taken into a Sioux tribe, and he's like 100 years old, and he's telling his story about his childhood and growing up in that from a European background. And one of the scenes, they show a Heyoka, and he's riding on the horse backwards, okay? And he's got half of his head shaved, and the other one's long, and he's going around speaking backwards in tongues, okay? And there's a long history, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I'm accurate on this. There's a long history in the heritage of shamanism of androgyny, and that's what I want to. I don't care. This is not my purpose. I'm going to be clear. The hermaphrodism, James has got that covered. I'm talking about androgyny, the other axis. There's a long history in shamanism across the world of androgyny, of being beyond that, beyond the identification of male and female. Okay, and that's really important. I am going to post in the
Guys, just I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just sharing the axes that True was referring to. All of you should be able to see that. It's episode 851, the Vitruvian Atom. I think that's the right episode. It may not be, but I go into this a lot more. But this is the axes in particular. And if you want to screen capture that now, I don't want to distract from True, so I'm going to unshare. I just wanted you to have a chance to see it. I'll paste this in patron chat too. So thank you.
And Mr. Knowles, if you could, it sounds like you are have been comfortable with this idea for a while. So maybe you can. I'm curious to know where the anger has come from as this has.
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. I just have one more point I wanted to make, and that was I'm going to, so that everybody can understand better what I'm talking about. I'm going to post in the post-show chats a video based on the testimony and interview with Black Elk, who was a medicine man for the Oglala people, who was also Heyoka. And you could see kind of what the purpose. So my point of that is what I feel like is going on, and like I said, based on in-depth witnessing for someone who's going through this, is that there is these young people are holding the energy for planetary consciousness, the next step. And here's where my anger comes in. My anger is that this process is being, I feel, hijacked by the medical community, by it's like a Pied Piper with gender reassignment doctrine, hormonal therapy, and surgery. I can't handle that. That makes me really fucking angry. I had my own experience of this, gender, and it's a real simple thing, but I carried it for years. When I was like 6 or 7 years old, anybody ever heard of a Susie Homemaker oven? Okay. I wanted one. And my dad fucking nailed me to the cross for years, made fun of me for that for years. And I thought, Jesus, what the hell's wrong with me? I mean, I took it on. And I think a lot of the shit kids are taking on today in a much more traumatic version than that mild one. That's my point. Anything we think is just ha ha ha, these kids are taking to heart. They're very sensitive. And I'm actually including these kids in the telepathy tape and all this. They're here to show us. We're not here to fix them. They're here to teach us. So it's kind of in the same ballpark to me. So my own wounding on this comes from sexual abuse. Nobody was there for me. Nobody was there for these kids, really. Because, Jesus, think about a kid, okay? When I was growing up, one day I wanted to be a fireman. Next day I wanted to be an astronaut. Next day I wanted to be a garbage truck driver. I didn't have a temporal lobe, So I'm changing my mind all the time. Oh, you want to be a girl? Come here. I got something for you. That pisses me off. I was also involved in a satanic ceremony, and I don't want to make a big deal about this. This is just something that happened, but it is relevant to my own emotional state right now. By a bunch of fucking amateurs when I was 6 or 7 years old. But I'm glad they didn't know what they were doing, but there were fucking consequences for me from that. And I think that this whole thing, the whole gender reassignment surgery is ritual abuse. That's my feeling. I had to have a soul retrieval when I was, this is about 6, 7 years ago. I had to have a soul retrieval from a shaman who was androgynous. And now I'm like, androgynous. Thank you. Okay. I had been working with somebody from the so-called alleged white brotherhood for 4 or 5 years, and he couldn't take me there. He was too fucking afraid. The Order of Melchizedek. So all I can say is this is real. It's coming. Nobody can fucking stop it. You can sit there and fucking point fingers all day
Right.
long.
But you're mad that people are mutilating themselves.
I am mad that it's being encouraged and for profit.
That sounds like too advanced of a feeling to be mad at that part. You're mad at the profitability of it?
No, I'm mad at my own abuse. Let's just cut it back down. I'm mad that my own self-abuse. So I guess that's the way I'm looking at it. It's like if it's too early,
Okay, well
let somebody
let's
do
just try
whatever
and
they
be
want.
let's just try and be more primal because I want you to picture that you're looking into three doors. One door is a child mutilating themselves. A second door is some businessmen making profit somehow from that first door. And I'm trying to tell you that I think that there's a more homing, a deeper home for your anger. And it's probably not the people that are profiting from it. It's probably the person mutilating themselves. But we're not going to be able to go there because we're going to talk about this pharmacosa, that we're going to talk about the people that are profiting about it in the other room. And we're going to do that because we don't actually want to look directly at what it is. So I feel like I just opened your chest and said, "Isn't this what you're feeling?" And your first reaction is, "No, no, no. I'm mad at the people that are profiting off of this." And it's like,
Well,
yeah,
first off,
so
okay.
we can't have a conversation about that because I don't even know. Now we have to create a victim and we have to create all these other hypotheticals in order to discuss the evils of profiting off something that everybody is doing anyway.
I see that.
So it's
Thank you.
harder it's just harder. These could be separate topics, right?
Keep going, Garrett.
I feel that we're not witnessing you as effectively because I think you're trying to ramrod all of your feelings together, True, and just get them all out and push them out. And you're afraid maybe that you're not going to have the opportunity to even look at things that are separate because you only have one chance. And I want you to relax and let go of that. I think you've already said something huge, but none of us can really, we're like, oh fuck, we got to really remember this so we can respond, but there's more, so we can't. And I just think you're doing uh your own position uh injustice is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Okay, and that's why I scheduled a session with you this afternoon. So I yield the floor if you think that's appropriate, unless you have more questions for me.
I think I'm out of line already because I'm stepping on Cameron's floor too. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just going to
Okay.
stop.
Oh, thank you for stepping in.
What do you think, Cameron? Is there any other questions you want to
No,
ask?
first of all, I want to acknowledge that I see what you see. I see I've seen it for a while. Um, and I've also I came to understand androgyny as probably a feature of God, or at least to think about it in those terms, thanks to help from people like Joseph Campbell. That was before Trans Story Hour started, and then a real rage started to build towards things that I thought were manipulative for children. Um, I can't really get into, or I don't have any knowledge about where the people who create the medical system or who create the evolving medical system, where we're moving into things are going to be a lot more to do with, I think, hormonal care, hormonal therapies, which include the transgenderism movement. I think they're all coinciding. Frankly, what James said today about Quaker Fairying, it kind of speaks to what we discussed between the subtle difference between passivity and pacifism. Um, the Quakers are actively pursue peace. I believe. When I hear someone like Nixon talk about his upbringing, he came from a Quaker family. They were actively involved in politics, actively trying to do things like in the Vietnam War. He's an individual, so they may be actively involved in facilitating pathways for these children to do things that we never felt called to do. And also, they were in charge. We see a system where ideas are broadcast, and I think for every generation, the children who are ashamed of their parents often fall into looking to the outside world for guidance. I'm trying to address your anger about a system in control forcing de-evolution.
Can I just clarify for a minute?
Please do, please do.
Okay, because the other piece of this is my angers, as I said up front, I'm angry mostly at myself because I have been unable to express my support for people that I love in a way that I feel heard and that they feel supported because of all this other garbage. And I that's why I need help with witnessing. That's why I was here to begin with. So that's all.
There are people in your life that you seek to support. I'm sorry for not processing that the first time you said it.
That are experiencing this transformation in their identity that I'm talking about, and I have not been able to get rid of my garbage so that they feel supported.
That's interesting to say it that way.
I got some feedback yesterday that just leveled me. It just devastated me. And so I knew I needed to come here and say this because it's gotten in the way of my own yeah, it's gotten in the way.
It's not in the way, it's actually on the mat, and this is exactly where we want it to be.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
So it's since Mike can I just go, Cameron?
Thank you, James.
I actually just want to amputate this first part only because I think that we lose a lot in taking away autonomy. And it's really easy to look at the mutilations as dupes or things that happened that would not have happened had a certain propaganda not been there. It's such an easy hypothetical because you want to do something, you want to fix it, you want to help. And it's all of those things are implying, this is tricky to hear, but all of those things are actually implying that the person that needs help is forever prone to a lack of autonomy and respect for their own abilities to destroy their life. The person who is addicted to crystal meth is amputating parts of their brain that they will never, ever, ever get back. It's gone for fucking ever, man. Forever. Circumcision does the same thing. Half the world is mutilating the boys and the other half's mutilating the girls. And they're justifying each by pointing at the other, saying, look how cruel they are. We must be the good guys. I need you to look at the people that are mutilating themselves in public, the ones that you would see on social media. And true, I'm not trying to say that you only have seen this on social media. Please don't hear that. I'm just saying that most of us see things that are on social media that are frankly disturbing. And so we build a profile from those things, and that those things are actually there to be seen. There's always going, in a healthy society, you are always going to find someone who wants to dress up like a dog, wear a collar, and flog themselves in public. You're not going to change that. This is a fetish because it's built on the very idea of what is most disgusting. And if someone is looking to lower and debase themselves, cutting is one of the most popular sports right now in young people. And I bet half of you never heard cutting until 5 years ago. You didn't even know what that word means. Some of you may not even know what that means. But this idea that you can get off by carving shapes into your skin brings you a certain kind of peace. And this peace is worrying and fretful, and we have to stop it. We need to launch ad campaigns. We need to do something. Someone should do something. Someone should do something. Someone should do something. And this is why you cut yourself. You want to see if the world will say someone should do something. You want to see that. You want to see the world secrete that they fucking care. You feel power because you can secrete a careness in the world. I just explained to you the entire legal system of civil litigation, by the way. Like this is why that's such a popular way of doing things. And if you look at every single extreme, you're going to find that someone is practicing this extreme. And if you analyze the extreme, let's say if you analyze the fact that that someone who is a cis-sexual boy with male chromosomes, and they decide that they can feel more like a woman if they castrate themselves, you get to either say this is autonomous. Oh my God, I can't believe that that genetic line is doing this, but they have autonomy, and I'm looking at raw nature do what it does. You can say that. That's a lot of weight. You can say this is wrong. These people should not have autonomy. I need to step in and intervene and make sure that's not happening. And you can have lower degrees where you don't actually take their children away, but instead you set up a vigilistic media propaganda campfire where you censor all the information that comes into a certain quadrant, or you hire celebrities to go out and spread the other propaganda as fast as you can. But both of those are still pointing to the fact that this human line does not have autonomy, and I do not feel comfortable giving it to them, because when I give it to them, they do shit like this. That's a weight too. It's not as heavy, but it's a weight. You can pick that up. Another weight is to behold the suicide, to behold the mutilation. And when I tell this to parents, they run away. They're like, how fucking dare you tell me that? I tell them, what if the next time your child says, I want to kill myself, you lean in and you say, you have that ability. That is going to tear me apart, but you have that ability. This is how powerful you are, that you can take your own life. And I have to let you do it because there's nothing I can do to stop it. This is how powerful you are. So you're not taking power away. You're giving more. You're showing them not only do you have a power over your own body, you have a power over mine too. You're going to mind fuck me. For the rest of my life, I want to be mind fucked by this decision. That's how powerful this is. Carving the word worthless into your kneecap. That
Boy,
affects
it's
me.
close to home.
That
Thank you.
moves me. And you want to be moved by that because you want a society where if someone has to find a new limbic way, a gas pedal, that you have to trust that they're going to fucking find it. I've watched kids that lean against each other's chests behind a tool shed and lean their weight on each other to suffocate themselves to where when they pass out because it feels good, you are not going to be able to stop this. Pretending to stop it is denying the conscious appetite that is a real living thing. It's a real living thing that has to be fed. And if we embrace the autonomy of what it's like to be fed, I'm telling you, if we stared into the face of transgenderism, then a boy would not need to feel that they needed to castrate themselves in order to feel more like a girl, because they don't want to be a boy or a girl. They want to be an indigo. They want to be a shazu, a mixelaco. They want to pick their Indian fucking name and they want to run through the forest with a tail. They want to go to the grocery store with a fucking tail. And I don't give a shit. There's nothing there that hurts me. This is what I'm trying to amputate right now, True. I'm trying to get you to see that just this part, I think, is a misnomer. It's a fucking smoke bomb. It's a smoke bomb because you're missing the point of what's really underneath all this stuff. So that's why I want you to respect each of the feelings that you have, because each stone is bigger. And your first stone is fucking nothing, man. Your first stone is not what you feel. You know that too. We can talk about this first stone though, because I want people to see it. I think that if you look at the addict and you say, dude, how are we going to solve this appetite? Not how are we going to stop this appetite? I think you're the only way out is to say, how are we going to fucking get your fix, man? How are we going to do it? Because look at how much it takes now. You need a buttload of cocaine. How are we going to do this? Right. And you're going to start looking at, we need nipple clamps. We need espionage. We need underground submarines. We're going to come up with whatever it is we can come up with to find that appetite, because the appetite's not the problem. The problem is our lack of our ability to drink. So when I look at what's happening, I think if you want to save kids, shouldn't we like be more apathetic about this? I literally mean that. Shouldn't we like apply less torque? like less both sides, less, oh, I encourage you,
Yeah.
but more importantly, less, oh, I'm going to save you because you don't know you don't know what you're doing. Meanwhile, I know what's right. And look at our fucking generation. We don't fucking know what's right.
Yeah.
I- I'd like to say that what stopped me most was no rationalization or anything. It was actually sharing space with people who are beautiful people or just individuals that come around and when they're close, which I think True feels this way, especially as a wounded healer. Yeah, the process is to let them bloom. In an overarching sense, Lauren spoke to her path of unification last week, and I can call myself a fellow traveler. James and Renee have talked about the process of individuation. I think both of these processes work simultaneously, the individuation being a material process. And I think that's what we're probably seeing is a spectrum of material individuation that aging was enough for me. That's the process of individuation I've been exploring in my life is how aging is that fact. It's we don't fail by dying or growing older or more disease. That is our process of individuation. I think these people might have a whole new spectrum of visualization, and including experimenting with throwing on a fake tail in lieu of a perhaps a real tail someday, or with gender. Uh, Before we go to Lori, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. James, you asked, do we have to collapse into binaries? And I think if it is four on an axis, maybe that is evidence that that's just the way our logic works. You know, I think of androgyny as sexual ambiguity, whereas hermaphroditism is probably sexual ambivalence. And then on the other side, you have one gender or the other. You understand the process better than I am. I'm kind of grasping at it.
May I, before I go, I'm about ready to yield the floor.
No,
Thank you.
please do. Thank you.
What I have experienced through talking to people is that, like, for example, somebody I'm very close to, the pronoun used is the name, not he, she. And the reason that is because when the pronoun is the name, it engages the person, the other, more directly, rather than a he or a she or you. You is ambiguous. He, she is ambiguous. This name, you're connecting heart to heart. And so it is a whole complex process of individuation. And I support it. I just thank you, James, for all your insights there. I look forward to this afternoon. I yield.
Yes. Thank you, James. Lori, good to see you. I won't distract you if I say that.
No, it's
really
good to see you, Kameron, and thank you so much. I'm inspired by your moderating. I didn't want True to yield. I wanted him to stay, and I wanted him to be witnessed because James went to that external that I saw you coming in as anger, and I see your heart, and I see a blooming of a flower, and I see this level like welling up inside of me of how many people have had this initiation of sexual abuse or satanic ritual abuse, and then we want to go savior because we feel victimized. And then that is this pattern that we're seeing again and again and again. And like, stay on the mat and get to that place in your heart that can be loved and like really loved and really seen. Because I was thinking about James's comment about the gas station woman, and he said she was inflamed. So she was carrying weight. It's like, where are we all carrying weight that we're not able to be witnessed? We go into the savior mode so that we can feel better. But does it really make us feel better? It's so uncomfortable to be seen. And so I want you to go back and stay. Because I was just getting to the place of you that's before language, that was so beautiful, that wanted an easy bake oven. And I'm like, so there's nothing to be solved other than to be seen. So I don't really have anything for me to say. I just wanted to say, stay on the mat and keep going. I just wanted to say, I see you.
Thank you. That's like music to my ear, and I'm new to this, so I didn't want to be like an attention-seeking clown. I wanted everybody a chance to get, but it felt real strongly about to just get the whole dialogue kicked off. So I will be back, and we'll talk more.
So your consideration, True, and Lori, for your encouragement. Appreciate that. It was well said. Looks like our next will be Daniel. Daniel, good to see you back.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, wow. I'm gonna try. I don't want to take too much space. It's very intense, and it sounds like maybe there. Yeah. So I forget your name. True. Yeah. As I was listening, it's like intense. I mean, I'm gay, and it's funny. Maybe it's a light story, but when I first came to James True, it's a little bit embarrassing, but I was obsessed with trying to figure out what his position was on gay people. Because I was like, I can't, this guy, if he's gonna be a homophobe, it's kind of stupid. But anyway, and sometimes it was a little bit ambiguous, but in the end, obviously he's into it. So, and yeah, but I'm a gay guy, and then I was thinking, you sounds like you're having trouble with people you love who are having identity issues, and I'm also angry about it. When I think about when I was a kid, if they would have asked me, I would have said I wanted to be a female elf. you know? Like, I think you guys are talking about that, it's just like, and so what I see is people get asked what their identity is all the time. It becomes all they do. And, I didn't really get to do that, but I have done it in my life, like, oh, obsess over what the fuck, what am I, gay? Am I a man? Am I a woman? And I don't have any answers, but I'm also surrounded by, so many fucked up people. Like, I know people who get mutilated all over the place just for art, and I know a lot of gay guy friends of mine who now only have sex with guys that have transitioned and have a vagina. So it's just like really intense, all of it. And I understand that. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted. I wanted to say hello, make my presence known, and make some kind of comment in connection with I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I'm always a little bit uncertain, like, wait, what's going on here exactly? Are people like taking turns or anyways? So thanks. And yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. This is a very raw nerve issue, and I think James is leaning right in to approach it, especially given the other cages that were rattled last week. It's much appreciated, and thank you for sharing some of your background. That helps me in listening to you a little more closely and a little better, I think. Next, we have. It looks like iPhone. iPhone, could you give me a name to refer to you as, and then go right ahead?
Oh, that's because I'm
Sarah.
on my phone. It's Sarah.
Excellent. Yes.
It's because I'm on my, let me, wait.
Well, it's good to see you, Sarah. Go right ahead.
Oh, wait. Okay, there we are. Yes, I'm still having breakfast. It's earlier here. So first, before I forget that, when I think of a boy wanting this oven, and how the father is so adamant against it, I think of if it was like seen differently, how like basically a large percentage and even more the further you go back of chefs were men. So what if as a child you present it as like, well, I want to be a chef when I grow up. So I don't know, that's one thing. I thought of that recently, of how this whole, right, you don't want to cook when you're a boy, you can't like bake and all, but you can grow up and be a chef. Anyway, but mainly I was thinking also on the transgenderism thing. I agree with True that I think I felt like at the beginning when this started was something, a natural process of evolution and growth in terms of a integration of male and female within both of us was being hijacked. for when the government starts promoting things and pushing it on kids, then it's something. Like I saw a story yesterday of a father in the process of divorce because the mother, um, they have two twin boys, and she has been raising him as a girl. When he is with the mother, he is treated as a girl and he behaves as a girl and will dress as a girl. And they will, of course, at school give him dresses. When he's with the father, he's a boy. When the father asked them about this, he said, because mommy won't love me if I'm not a girl. So there really is I think, a very nefarious agenda. But I still think that there is something true at the core um, for some. I think also of how some say the veils are thinning between, I see it as thinning between our existences and lifetimes as everything. We've been the opposite gender, we've been other races and all of this. So especially in children remember their past lives. So I wonder if like when a 3-year-old is saying, "Mommy, I'm call me Susie instead of Tommy," then they often are still very close to their most um, recent life experience as that opposite. That has been shown. I've wondered if like hypnotherapy would help for people that when you're young, it's like, oh, well, you're in this physical body, you're this. Um, and I'm thinking all of these different things. Then I wonder how much of this is because we have this, because we are in material bodies, and on top of it, we have been um, taught and programmed to externalize everything materially. I think the cutting also is a way to externalize internal emotional pain, that it makes it more um, understandable and an easier way maybe to transmute it. So yeah, those are my ideas. Yeah, I think there's something and also part of it that it's I think nefarious for children is because and we are anyway as humans, we are so easily suggestible in it. I think it's connected to James pointed out, I really like that humans are the only ones that if we're raised with another species, we will take on the behavior of that species. So while that seems like, wow, we're really suggestible, but it also means that we're always open to a lot more growth and considering all of these options. So I think it's really complicated. But I'm pretty appalled at how it's being handled in terms of promoted by the government. And in Washington, they just had a day of what was it called? Trans visibility. So why would you need like a government day of this and government funded and this stuff? So when the government gets involved, I'm highly suspicious. And that at the same time, there's this like game of like, yeah, there's this natural process and evolution and growth happening, but at the same time, there's this pressure to subdue it and hijack it. That's what I got.
I want to jump in if I can. Dude, it looks like we got plenty of time. I hope you guys don't mind with your hands up. The um I'm not I really don't want to convince anyone. Um I also want to just showcase certain things that I see because we don't even have the language to know where this is going in like a decade or two. It takes a while for the tulip to unfurl. And I see this most because on the most extreme sides of the conservative movement is a push and an urge for someone to accept a sex, what we call gender, very early, and that the conservative is pushing just as hard that you are a boy now, you are a male now, because you have chromosomes that say that. And just as hard on the other side, the most hypothetical liberal would be pushing that yes, you have these male chromosomes, but you are a female now, you are a girl. And I just hope that we can see that both sides are actually pushing gender into the children, who are saying, can we just not use this context anymore? But unless you're looking at this appropriately, I don't think you can see the conservatives doing the same. I think that all you see is that there's propaganda that's forcing kids that normally would have naturally thought one thing to now think that there's another thing. But if you study what government does, government actually doesn't lead. Government has to watch where the people are and adjust their corn output to feed the most witness based on what it thinks it can terrorize everyone into thinking about. So the haunting is already there. I imagine that the haunting is all of the psychosis that exists inside of an 8K culture that's trying to fit into a 2-bit gender, a 6-bit job like alpha, beta, gamma, those kinds of roles, and that all of these plinko things would shut off and eliminate the ability for the individual to grow naturally are now removed. But you're looking at a culture, i.e., us, saying, well, it's about gender, they're screwing it up. But actually what's happening is this is not about gender. You're screwing it up. You're screwing it up because you're insisting that kids do want to change their gender. They actually don't. What they actually want is to not be attached to fertility. That's really all it is I don't want to be attached to fertility. And so if you look at this thing as people trying to decouple from fertility, I realize it's hard because you think, well, we'll never survive. How do people survive? But this is where the lesson of the rest of nature comes in when you just look at what a colony does. That a colony will decide, I'm not going to have kids. I want to grow the strongest mangroves right here because I want the salt water to brush up against us and create a safety net. I want to sacrifice or mutilate. This is the same thing, guys. You're genetically mutilating yourself because you want to find your identity. And that identity is going to be something that may not be on the map yet. And the more that we fear that, the more it's going to light up the constellation, which is just going to make more people that aren't even congruent with the idea run to get there just because they know they'll secrete someone should do something juice. And it's such a good juice. I guess I'm just trying to say, I think in all of this, we're not at a vista where we can even look at this accurately because I still see the binary of you either have to be naturally the same gender as your sex or you have to naturally be against the same gender as your sex. And both of those are demanding that we somehow pay attention to sex before puberty. And meanwhile, a different culture is saying, why do we need puberty? And frankly, I think this is an astonishingly effective, brilliant question that's never ever been asked in our lifetimes, in our epigenetic lifetimes, meaning we've never had a position where we could even question that. And ultimately, this is what attacks the imagination. This is what kills your ability to want an easy bake oven. This is what kills your ability to want to be in ballet or to be in certain sports that don't fit with this other kind of thing because success is tied so ubiquitously with sex chromosomes. And this is the mode that's not going to work. And I think there are going to be more mutilations until all that shit just lets go. The government could honestly be just listening to the insanity that's happening inside of everyone's home. And that insanity is coming through ADHD, through spectrum disorders or what we call disorders, through mutilation ceremonies, which frankly I think are so much bigger than the gender mutilation stuff. Even the hormonal stuff is a totally separate topic, I think, that we should discuss openly because holy fuck, you can take pills now and stifle your pineal. I mean, your pituitary. You have the ability to squeeze your own pituitary. We can freak out and say no one should have the ability to squeeze their own pituitary, but that's only going to be a nice position for people that are dig their pituitary. Some people might be, my pituitary is not really doing what I want it to do. And that's would be the same thing I would feel about my hair. I would feel about different parts of me. You guys get what I'm saying. I don't need to keep going, but thank you.
You've presented a paradox, which probably tells me that you're on the right track. As far as you say that they're trying to decouple from fertility. Today you mentioned, at least in terms of Pan, that fertility and mortality are indelibly linked. And so in terms of my thinking, as far as a material process of individuation, because that's what their path looks like to me at first glance, is a process of individuation. However, to decouple from fertility, which I think, maybe except for the eunuchs, I think that hermaphrodites aren't necessarily decoupled from utility. But that's wonderful stuff, James. Thank you for that. Lauren, great to see you. Go ahead. Lauren, I still don't hear you. Could you start over?
Sorry, guys, that didn't work. Listening to you, True, that hurt child in me just wanted to crumble for you. Adults that let you get hurt at such a young age, not only occultly, but then you said that you'd also abused yourself. When that sort of thing happens to us, we carry shame. We wonder why we weren't protected, why we weren't good enough to have an adult who's supposed to be there to wrap their arms around us. So I think that when you look at this world today and you see these helpless children who are getting hurt too, it just, and rightly so, it probably hits that raw pain within you, that pit that was left. And you're just having a really, hard time. Like I think a lot of us are. We don't want to see people get hurt. But the good thing is when you're given that much raw pain and so many difficult situations to deal with, you can use it as fuel in your later life as an adult. So, sending you lots of love. Thank you for sharing with us.
James. Speaking to the anecdote that Sarah brought up, Ashley had shared that with me, and my anger at the situation, I think she looked for support in worrying for the child. My anger was at the parents. And the way I responded, which she didn't necessarily appreciate, was the state, which this father's complaining about, would have no power if they hadn't divorced. Now that might be, I know many people here have gone through divorce and consider it a part of their life they would not take away. It might get a little personal just to say that I came from a single mother who divorced my father before I was born and was with my brother in a single parent relationship until the age of 9, and then had to experience a new family started and being almost like put to the side on top of other things. So that's probably where my anger goes in that anecdote. Perhaps it's misguided to try to find purpose, although it does purpose in the suffering for the child in the anecdote that Sarah brought up, or for any of us who have suffered. It's to repeat myself, a part of the process of individuation. James mentioned today that suffering was rooted in desire, and to my own, again, parents, whether they were trying to drink the pain away or trying to get rid of desire altogether, both of those made me angry. And as I study desire itself, I think that as Sappho noticed, it's bittersweet, or sweet bitter. Both sides of the process of individuation, which probably doesn't feel like it's helping move this conversation forward. Renee, senpai, good to see you. Yeah, thank you.
Oh gosh, I am just the blast off of this 2025 is just so incredible. Our first quarter of the 2000s, everybody. We've had some big ones. This is a big one, but mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of Lord Technology. And it is the Old Testament. It is what my father, his father, that was a technology that moved them. And now we're arising to the New Testament, where Jesus says, walk in my footsteps, be like me. So that is the flag that you carry to the mountain you build. So much is coming in. Oh my gosh, I really tapped into a deep well yesterday with some family stuff, some family business, deep business. Had no idea. It was right there. And the singularity of where things happen on the turtle of your ancestors' movement on the turtle, from Europe, from my people coming from Europe to the America, looking for freedom, to imaginate, and they followed Joseph Smith and ended up, so you see the spire that's been built in your very journey. Some are more prismatic than others, only because your ancestors, I believe all of you here can relate to this, sacrificed so much for you to see this glory of their path. And now you can go on GAIA and follow your lineage and learn so much. And James is doing that in his creation with his VR, experience. So really getting immersed in it. And I think it's I wrote a lot of things down, but I'm going to bring up a couple. Preserver. I don't know if you're a kid of the 70s, but moms preserve food, right? And you'd be there and they'd have gardens and they preserve, and you'd be like, oh man, I'm so excited. And then the canning stopped, right? So the preserving stopped because I believe they needed to start preserving themselves. And it came through when we were able to record what was going on in our parents' field. So this is the corn that is growing. It's a Capricorn. It is you see it in Janus. You see the back and the forward, the looking in the past and the future, and the solstice marks that, those winter solstice. So you see there's just so much beauty in this rendering, and I think the kids see that we're not smelling what the black rock is cooking, and I love that the rock is black because that is latent space to fill. So it's just such a overwhelming, and the transition movement that is in my city in the port off the Columbia is a really special place that we're keeping it weird, and we've drawn a lot of this type of energy wanting to individuate, and they're having a hard time because they're so caught in the blue and the red, and they don't see themselves as the liberty that's being torn apart. So it's just so great, this work. And I think you each are building mountains. And if you're here, this is a very, it's a long pose to hold. You got to still fire every night. You know what I mean? To get your going, to get your flame, beaming out of you as you are made of stars. So it's really beautiful to see the constellations and all our paths as we navigate, into the Sheol of this beautiful earth. So that's what I got. But wow, really amazing shares. I see all your bravery and strength in sharing right now, and I appreciate it. And I will let's take it, Kameron.
Renee, thank you for reminding us about the opportunity to steal the fire. That is right. I think that's important for every person to take the sense of themselves and not just accept what is given. That's an important rite of passage for all of us. I think that's very important. Also, for bringing latency back into the conversation. James did wonderful work introducing, speaking personally, revealing some of the language in computer programming about latent space and the way it's utilized in AI generation. Before that practical application, I had only known it as a philosophical term, and it's very, very beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. Brad, good to see you. Go ahead, sir.
Good to see you too, brother. Good to see everybody. First off, I just want you all know I don't trust any of you mofos, but that's okay. Just kidding. As far as the transgender issue and things like this coming up, I have a hard time once I get to the point where I trust the plan, if you will. I start trusting Gaia. All of those things kind of fall by the wayside in time, because it's kind of like the agendas we're talking about, and it's not like anyone, I think, arriving in these conversations has not been through all of the agendas and seen see it, because I'm not trying to say we don't see it for what it is, because Kameron, like you said, we're trying to find maybe the point in the suffering, because we all have suffering. I think the choice mainly comes down to what do we want to use it for, as an excuse to say, oh, this is hard and it hurts and I just want to, which is valid, and I think we've all done to extents as well. Or, try and find the purpose in what is it, and it inevitably always does spur you to move somewhere, so I find that no matter how I want to contextualize the world and its quote unquote agenda and who I want to say is running it and who's behind it, I'm just saying that once you get to a point where you start taking personal responsibility, growing your own self-worth, it doesn't become a crusade. It doesn't matter that, like, frankly, it doesn't matter if there are nefarious interests trying to run agendas, because at a certain depth, when you get to a certain place, I think if you really start to trust, you understand that, and we've all heard this, I think, analogy before, that even the devil himself, in trying to do the highest harm, does the highest good, or something like to that effect. So it doesn't even matter whether the agenda is intended at a certain level if you trust in the whole process. And I think that's kind of, Renee, what you're talking about too, when we get to a point where you get to that point of walking the path yourself, and that there's a and isn't that funny, because James, we were talking about the idea of trust. What's easier to deal with in the world as far as friends is when you trust them, basically. And I think it's like this in terms of when a stranger, I trust them to be accounting for or taking care of themselves first in the interaction. And so I'm good with that, because we're the same. I guess sometimes with friends, and people will come in as a friend and say they'll use the cover of friendship to kind of say, hey, I'm doing this for you, when in truth we can kind of see, well, no, you're just abusing my trust, instead of just being honest in that way. And I'll kind of conclude and wrap up everything I'm saying with, as far as the going back to genderism and sex and everything like this. That, I think, is the root of a lot of it, is the idea, which you're talking about in the show today, James, about the fact that first fertility has to be introduced, and then we have this inborn sexuality, these inborn urges. But then on the back end, through religions and philosophies or whatever else, there's a shame component that comes in with it too. And I took hard for me to recognize that one of my early interactions being caught masturbating, not quite there, but I was shamed about it, and it's from my mother, and she didn't mean it in that way, like, as parents, I don't think we even can conceive of how these sort of things, but apparently that got deep seated in me. So I always felt like, even though, like, I'm a cisgendered male or whatever like that, like, even those interactions, like, I felt like I was wrong for wanting to be sexual. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's weird, because it's one of those things that happens so young, you don't consciously think about it, and you kind of have to reflect about it. So then my behaviors, in a way, I often, people thought I was gay and things like this, and that would really twist me up. And I think all this goes into the idea of, with the young people and transgenderisms, and where we have to trust is, I think it creates these schizophrenic sort of, we're searching for our identity, but we're feeling the shame. And so it's like you're trying to fit into certain places, and the transgenderism seems to be gotten to a point where it's just, or the world where we're at, it was like, it's so constructed that it's like, maybe the younger generation and a lot of people in there have just realized, like I'm not, they're trying to, if you understand what I'm saying, get away from all these shames that they see that don't really do anything positive, and move beyond that. I guess is kind of maybe what I'm seeing, but I think that's all I've got, guys.
It's I agree. I think in now it might be a logical trick, but I see the people that they're leading this evolution and this experimentation, this pioneering. You start to see non-binary, which is, I think it's our first millimeter, past this threshold. This is an attempt to try to get past this need for everything to collapse into a binary. As can be troubling sometimes. Annie, I think you're next. Good to see you. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Hello. In the subject of, I have a couple of things about scratching, cutting, whatever. To me, when I was about 14 or 15, we would take a pin and just kind of scratch our skin to see if we could feel pain, because like we wanted to see how much pain we could handle. That's what it was. And it's like, how tough when are you going to stop? Are you going to keep going? And so I started with a line, and then I made a triangle, and made a little triangle on my hand, and then down here I made a little star and everything. And when I was about that age, I started getting into trouble, cry for help, blah blah blah, and actually got taken to jail a couple of times when I was young. And they said, "Are there any scars?" They're filling out the thing. Any scars? And I said, "Yeah, I have this star thing on here that I scratched. I was really proud of it. Look, I have this thing." And they're all, okay, they weren't really impressed. And I kind of noticed how they weren't really impressed by it. So anyway, all that to say that later it just faded. There's nothing there. And I never even got my ears pierced. I never got any piercings, any tattoos, nothing, none of those things ever. So maybe that was all I needed to get that out of my system. But as far as androgyny and hermaphroditism, or from what I understand, isn't a hermaphrodite when you have both, and then after the other one is you don't have either, or you're kind of just want to ignore all that down there and just be neutral pretty much. When I was growing up, I didn't play with little dolls, like girl dolls, but I played with animals. And that was my thing, was all the animals. I loved little rubber animals, and we did all these things, and it was very imaginative. And I was a tomboy. And when I started going into the workforce, the main job that I had, my main career, half of it was I was working with mostly man on man crews, doing man things out in outside, landscaping, stuff like that. And then I also never really felt the urge to be a mother. And so I don't know, I got teased in college. They would say, "And the man," and stuff. But because I'm 5'1", I'm 100 pounds, basically I'm tiny. And, maybe I was pretty chunky, a little bit chunkier, that like maybe 50 pounds heavier back then. And so I would get described as a sumo wrestler and stuff. It's just like, that's pretty odd for a little human to say that, and I wasn't like big jack, I didn't have a big muscle. I guess I was kind of muscular, so that's what they would say. And they would tease me and stuff like that. And so that was about, and then I got teased for not trying to be like, even later in adult life, somebody that I would end up getting married to was teasing me that I was that I was looking manly because I was wearing like a tank top and my arm was, maybe I don't wear really feminine frilly clothes, and maybe I don't give a shit, and yeah, I talk like a sailor too. And, I worked with a bunch of guys, and it was great. And then later I was more like in City Hall. So I got to see all the corruption in the government level. So that was interesting. But I still try to remain active. I'm the same age as Joe, not Joe, sorry, True. I keep wanting to call him Joe in my mind for some reason. True. We're the same exact age. And I just remained active my whole life, and I don't feel my age. But anyway, yeah, the scratch, yeah, that's pretty much all I got right now.
Now that you mention it, it seems like for all of my life that the lid was on sexuality altogether, culturally, like in the family, in the church, like, and it's, yes, walking the lines of these gender norms can be difficult, and or not. I know that's not what you're probably saying, except for that back to what, if I can maybe draw in again what Sarah had mentioned about the easy bake oven, in regards to True, and also James's exhaustion with objective reality as a reason for this morality. We can see as we look back that these cultural norms change so much, from the fashion to who's a sexual symbol. I like that Miguel said or proposed that that Elvis himself might have been the first male sexual symbol, at least in Americana culture. And so thank you for bringing all that into the conversation. Let's see, James, you're our next hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a lot to stick with mutilation and victims and things like that. And I kind of wish we could get past that, but not because it's not important. And so I feel like maybe I'm a little bit too reaching to think that we could just talk about it as if this was an autonomous thing, because I think if you could get there, we could actually like have a real discussion about it, like in the sense of like what it means magically. So I'm trying to respect where our pace is, and I wonder if this will help. John Podesta is still alive. Dude's doing well. He's wandering around the streets. No one gives a shit. There are 24,000 people right now that have liked a post that says John Podesta is mutilating children and eating their face off for dinner every night. And everyone says, yes, that's happening. And they spread that. They retweet that every day. They don't retweet my stuff. They don't retweet anything that has any kind of accountability. None of that is there. I want you to realize how much bullshit is just out there. I'm talking about the passion of what you think someone is really upset about is meaningless. It means fucking nothing. John Podesta allows you to ignore the affair you're having. John Podesta allows you to ignore the fact that you just dropped your fucking kid off at a library and went to Target because you couldn't handle their shit anymore. That's really what it is. And if you can peel that off, you're looking at complex individuals making complex decisions that are 10,000 years old. This thinking has been happening for 10,000 years now. Stop blaming the government. Give people all the power. Just give it all to them. Stop trying to create a pharmacose scapegoat that people can just run away from their decisions. Don't do that. Let people be accountable for their colossally huge mistakes. I enlisted in the Navy. I could have easily lost my life if that would have been a month different, or if I would have checked a different box when it comes to what my job should be. I get to do that. I'm allowed to do that. You guys have to let me. You have to. And when I go follow the Grateful Dead and I get in a van and I have $50 in my name, that's me. I get to do that too. I get to mutilate myself. I can put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. That's how powerful I am. That's how powerful all of us are. And the government doesn't get that credit. I don't get to blame them for these things. None of us get to blame that, because eventually we will see the government is not even there. It'll be a smart city because we're going to keep blaming the shit out of them until they turn into a smart city. And only then will we start to go, well, maybe there's something else here, you know? The kid who cut off his own nuts because MTV told him to was already in pain before he mutilated himself. We're not mad that the kid's in pain. We're mad that the kid made us feel bad, made us clutch our fucking pearls because he was in pain. Because the understanding is that before he cut his own nuts off, he was fine. That he was just doing fucking great. And you have to go through a lot of fucking hell before you get to the decision where this is what I want to do. There's a lot of things you have to sign. You have to watch videos of this procedure. You have to watch that. They make you. A court makes you do that. My mom had to do the same thing because she wanted a hysterectomy. Court was like, well, you're fucking crazy. She had to go to a psychologist for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and get him to sign off that it was okay. Pronouns are fear of identity. And we've had these pronouns for so long, we're afraid to take off the skates. We're afraid to take off these braces. We don't, James, we cannot let go of these training wheels because the identity is going to collapse on itself. It needs this first stalk that forces it into one of two tubes, male or female. And that's why people are mutilating themselves. That's why you're watching people insist. I'm not saying it's all of it, but this is why. It's the same thing when you're like, this is a town and I'm not going to let you kids dance. You just started a fucking dance party. That's how you throw a dance party. That's how you do it. So all of us I get the government's doing it, but we use the government to spur what we want. We're smarter than this. We know how to do this. The cocktail was invented because of prohibition. We have some of the most fancy drinks you could ever imagine because of these things. Here's where I think you need to go. Could you trust yourself at 13 when you're starting to lose your imagination and people are telling you you need to stalk your own junk for pubic hairs and you need to make sure that you've got pimples and you need to make sure that fucking voice cracks? Are we saying that if you had the autonomy and the ability at that point to literally say, I don't want to go through puberty, that this is a cruel, evil decision and that we cannot let anyone have this power at all? Because if you ignore all the other gender stuff, if you ignore all of that, I swear to you, this is the issue. I swear to fuck, this is the issue. The issue is, how can I imaginate Shazam true if it has to go through this route of Jimmy James? How can I be a Shazam if I have to go through this first? You're wasting some of the most precious parts of your life developing fertility instruments, and you may not even want them. You may have zero inclinations to want to reproduce or want to enter into that realm. When True talks about finding the pronouns, I've noticed the same thing. These people, I'm using that on purpose, these fucking people that are making me use their pronouns, they're actually making me use their name. I don't need to know their pronoun. They're making me learn their name. That's really it. And when I'm talking about Sven, I'm just talking about Sven. And yes, I have to stop a lot. I'm like, and then Sven was over there and fuck. And then Sven was over there and Sven said, and it's, yes, I get it. It's fucking hard. You're learning how to ride a bicycle that has no training wheels. You're learning how to put identity into everything. You're learning how to not hypotheticalize someone all through puberty, to make sure that they have these braces that go on their teeth that forces their teeth to exactly fit into this realm of fertility. To me, this is such a huge decision. I don't know what's right, guys. I simply know that we have autonomy. I simply know that if we keep becoming more and more conscious, the threshold for what we call adult is going to decrease, not increase. And if you keep decreasing that, we already have decided that all of us get to sign away our ability to murder someone for a fashion decision, but we cannot stop our own puberty. And I'm just telling you, this sounds weird. This sounds incongruent to me. And additionally, even if you try and say you can't do that, you will simply go to a country that allows it. You will simply go to the place where that happens, or you'll do it the way they're doing it today. There's so much better medicine everywhere except for here. Everywhere except for here. And why? Because we have these weird fetishes about things. We do it with stem cells. We do it with therapy. We freak out about the idea of an aborted fetus inside of our soft drinks. And I get it. Yes, there's a lot to freak out about there. Patient zero is being reborn and murdered every time you drink a soft drink. Let's have these conversations, but let's also, if we're going to give this autonomy, let's really sink in with the autonomy, because I want you to just have that thought experiment. Guys, I don't know what the right decision is. What would I do if I could go back and I could say, I don't want to go through puberty? I would have to think about it, because I'm thinking about all the imagination I lost because of all the fucktard retards living around me that insisted you can't have a fucking oven, or you can't have fucking roller skates, or hey, rollerblading, inline skating is gay, but if the skates are beside each other, it's heterosexual. And you're trying to figure out, what the fuck am I allowed to even do in this place? And you don't know, because you're listening to a demonic egregore that's telling you what one sex is allowed to do during this generation. And so it gets us nowhere. All it does is really at the underpinnings of when identity is coming out of the ground, we're shooting it in the fucking head and we're insisting. Both sides are insisting, you better pick a fucking sex right now, motherfucker. You better do it right now. It's a huge responsibility. It's so big, maybe we don't want to have it. But can we at least admit that this is it, that we don't want to have this power? There's nothing wrong with that. But let's at least say that's what it is. It's because that's what it is. Am I preaching? I'm preaching. That's
Not at all. Thanks for pushing the conversation, trying to allow us an opportunity to stretch a little bit. I don't want to act too close to you, James, but I think you might remember a while back trying to recognize the sovereignty of my own children at a very early age. Probably autonomy might have been what I meant, but it was just an acknowledgement. And they're still at an age where they frankly worship their parents, but pretty soon it'll be more like my only power will be to repel. They have autonomy. There's nothing I can do. I'm not a voice inside their head. I'm an outside influence. And I think I think you were definitely on something. If I'm understanding you correctly, that when we are angry about the autonomy given to our children, we are actually angry about having to own our own autonomy in there somewhere. True. Mr. Knowles, go ahead. Good to see you.
Okay, three things real quick. First of all, two things. I can remember this. When James said about choosing to go into puberty, I got my hair cut real short when I was about 13, freshman in high school, for football, real short. And it all of a sudden it started to grow back curly, and I freaked out. I had no idea and I realized it was probably because I was going through puberty, but it did freak me out. So that was one thing. I had to do Jedi mind training for a year when I was asked to use the first name in place of pronouns. It took me a year of constantly reviewing my thoughts and correcting myself all the time. It's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. Okay, so number 3 is, I think it was Lori or Lauren had mentioned about androgyny and genitalia. I know someone who is in a female biological spacesuit who has a phantom limb syndrome. Okay, it's real. So that's all I wanted to say. If you know what I mean by phantom limb, which limb? I think everybody. Do I need to say it? Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, True. Sinia? Hi.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, just a quick little relatable tangent. I was offended as a 14-year-old, but now I can laugh about it. When I came out to my dad, I was like, "Hey, Dad, would you love me if I was bisexual?" And he was like, "I don't think you're bisexual. I think you're a lesbian, and you should accept that." And that was like kind of inspiring. And hearing past dreams that I've missed this week, like there is a luxury to, um, having absent parents and being in a room full of people that disagree with you and always feeling like singled out in that demeanor. And Arc of Baphomet really helped me compassionate with that because I was very disrespectful. I was had the mindset of Blueprints of Mind Control, that chapter of the eugenics of which I've seen now. I needed to be there to be here. The Vitruvian atom chapter, basically the last two sentences, when you talked about our genetic footprints and just tracking them, and the way that you worded it about it's neither the chicken or the egg, we were spawned here, which allowed me to see that everybody's just exercising their avatar. Kind of like if people are familiar with Fortnite, like we just spawn here and we choose our avatar and we're just trying to have fun. Um, it's really hard for me to now imaginate the whole like there's an agenda and they're trying. they're trying to treat us like the frogs, and like it's not like that anymore. Everyone's really showing us our mythology. Like I see it, and it's a very calmer state for me to be in. Another thing, having Arc of Baphomet in my brain and in my heart is very dangerous because I live in a college town, and I've kind of brought that to the mat sometimes, and I get called an uneducated bigot, so that's very hurtful. So I'm trying to work on that and maybe how I deliver that information. So thank you.
I live in a college town as well, Yesenia, and certainly progressive sensibilities can be as delicate to work with as conservative ones, if that's even what you're saying. And glad to have you today. James, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the initiation, Yesenia. Well, I already know you know that. That's the initiation. You'll get called bigot, and it's really important. And that's why it's probably better to start swinging with ego. Like, hey, maybe ego ain't so bad, because then you already get them mad and they're riled up, and then you pull something like this, and they're, yeah, it's a different battle. But when it comes to, I've watched some of the YouTube people that are either transitioning and detransitioning. I watched a lot of both during Arc of Baphomet, and I was trying to find the ones that were the most authentic on both sides because I want to compassionate the shit out of this. And I've been brought to tears because I see how I've seen some of them that are deeply unhappy, but they don't have enough pride to admit that. So they're still streaming on YouTube and talking about how this was the best decision in their life. And this is what I mean. I come for this because this is where you see the real truth of it all, that this is all of us. This isn't just them. And it's definitely moving. I want you to know that I've been moved by all of these things. I don't say this lightly. If I pictured myself as being, if someone was to have a one-on-one with me and they were to say, I'm thinking about cutting off my something, um, I would love the opportunity to have this conversation with them. And in my mind, the conversation is coming from a man who's about to cut off his penis because I have the male chromosomes to empathize better. And I would tell them that, what if you already are a woman? What if you already are this different identity? It's actually more accurate to say that. I'm going to be using the word woman here just so I can get the story out quick. Because I would first say, that's not really, you don't actually want to be a woman. You want to be this Dionysia, right? Like, what did you call her? And if they'd be like, well, I don't know what her name is, I'd be like, well, let's start with the name. Let's start there. What is this? It's Shea Underpatch. Well, are you sure that's it, or is it Sky Butter? Oh, it's Sky Butter. Yeah, okay. There's nothing wrong with this. This is painting who you are. Let's lean into that. What does this person look like? Because if you follow them, they might start to say, well, they're a woman. They might start to say that. And I would have to say, well, wait a minute, you're you're using the same instruments of oppression that you're saying you want to run away. So they're not actually a woman, right? You're just using the old crayons to paint the shape. What if you are the horned Venus? Let's let that sink in. What if you are the horned Venus? And like I said, you could try this both genders. You might find there's another way of saying it. What is the horned Venus? Well, it's Venus, but she's got a horn. The horned Venus. So it sounds like one horn. Could be two. But Venus with one horn, this is pretty obvious what we're talking about. You're talking about a female that has a single horn. This is an archetypal goddess. It's a deity. So not all of this has to be physical. Here's what I fucking think this is what people will be in the future. They will be horned Venuses. They will realize that they are simultaneously both. What's different is that there's a phasing of white sun and black sun, white sun and black sun, white sun and black sun. White sun has this shape and black sun has this shape. And all they've done is just coupled with the entirety of it all. None of these are, I'm not a man anymore, I'm a woman. No, what the correction is, you're not a man anymore, you are a horned Venus. All your parts are vital and important. This is not about you need to remove a part. This is about you need to see the part that you think is not there. Your job is to imaginate the part that you think is not there. And you think the way to do that is to mutilate your other parts, but that's not going to focus your imagination on what's not there. It's going to focus your imagination on what you just cut off. It looks like the same, doesn't it? If you stand back far enough, you're doing the same thing. Those are both the same thing, and they're not. And this is what I mean by I just don't think we can see fully what the tulip looks like when it comes out. I swear to fuck, this is what people want. They want to be a horned Venus. They want to be a skinned Aphrodite. I'm trying to think of a real quick thing for the if I was a woman and I was telling you that I deeply wanted a penis. If it wasn't horned Venus, it would be maybe something a little bit different, but even it still fits the same. What I want is to feel whole. What I want is to find my etheric twins, my missing twins. I want to find my testes or my ovaries. Now you have all the equipment to chronically tap in. You can chronically just tap into that. You don't have to mutilate a fucking thing. You don't have to change your name. You could. I think you should. If people want to change their name, I think they should be allowed to. I think you should go through some rigmarole. I think you should expect people to kind of be annoyed that they have to remember what your name is. And this is part of the gauntlet of you owning your identity. So maybe do it a few times. That's just me. I'm a prude though. But ultimately, you're finding yourself, you're finding your identity. And more importantly, you're looking back where I didn't have the courage. You're looking back because if I had the courage now, when I was 13, I would have said, I think you guys are insane. Mom, Dad, I think you guys are fucking retarded. I think you're emotionally psychopathic. I think you have no clue how the world works. You're giving me some of the worst, most outdated, stupid advice I've ever heard. I've lost respect for you completely. I don't even want to go into puberty. This is this is all of these things are true, valid, autonomous, and possible, and will be the future. I swear to fuck. That's coming. The only way it's going to not is if the orthodoxy keeps instilling trauma, keeps telling us, well, you want to cut it off. I'll show you. Let's cut it off. They're going to be doing that. They're going to be causing as much. They're going to burn as much as they fucking can. You don't believe me? Watch what boomers are doing. No offense, but I was raised by boomers. They're like, get the fuck out of my house. Get out right the fuck now. You're 18, get the fuck out of my house. And now they're judging everyone else because now people are like, why would I want my children to get out of the fucking house? Family's beautiful. What's wrong with that? So you have people that are just simply retaliating because, well, this shit was done to me, so I'm going to do it to you guys. And I swear to you, this is 98% of what you see people bitching about. It's just revenge therapy. It's just a bunch of people chasing around revenge, and no one actually gets to look at the fact that really you're a horned Venus, man. And if you could quiet your mind enough, if you could stop listening to retards, go in your room, shut the door. What kind of music do you play? Where's your beach? Where's your tranquil island? What do you look like in the mirror? Boom, your identity is solved. There you go. It really is that easy. But you've got all these terrorists out there waiting for you outside your bedroom to fucking ruin it for you because of all the revenge shit they're going on. I swear to you, this is what's happening. All of us are haunted, but we have to insist it's not us. That's all I got. Thanks. I'm preachy. I'm sorry. I don't expect this to be the only view. I really don't, guys. I really don't. I totally get it. I wrote blueprints. I know where it's like. It's not even invalid to me. I'm just showing you this little vista because I swear it's valid too.
That's a gold arrow right to the heart, as far as especially, when I said I didn't want to be too close, I didn't really finish my thought. But it's almost like just a void in some of the ways it really was trauma based. It really was hard borders, heavy doses of trauma anytime you cross a line. Heavy doses, and that's a shadow that I still trying to grow out of. But Sarah, go ahead.
Yes, this is an interesting thing to share when you're talking about the horned Venus. So I had this weird experience. It's a little awkward to share. I woke up one morning, although it wasn't a real awakening. There's something called that can happen in the morning, a false awakening, where you think you're awake, but you're still in a dream. And it was very real. And I woke up and I had a penis. It felt like I had one. And then I guess I woke up for real afterwards, like, oh, that's was interesting. I didn't think a lot of it, just thought, yeah, we've been everything. And this puts it in a new perspective that, yeah, we have everything. Also, we have both, we are both. Um, and there's an aspect of us that likes to match these feelings externally. And then also about puberty, I was late in puberty. My parents, when I guess I was 12, I was a couple years away from puberty, and my mother thought it was a great idea that I would like to go to summer camp. And they sent me to Camp Shalom, which is Camp Peace. And I was bullied there by the other girls because I was behind in puberty. So they would get up over the showers and toss cold water on me and tease me and things like that. To this day, I am uncomfortable changing in locker rooms, like for a spa or anything. I kind of want to hide and be private. And the interesting thing at that camp was I became friends with one girl. She was from Puerto Rico, who was um, ahead in puberty than everyone else. So people would be like, yeah, they're like comparing how much pubic hair you have and you have breasts yet, which I didn't and I never got much of anyway. Um, so yeah, that whole puberty. And then like to delay puberty, it's kind of like, are you staying in this like Peter Pan forever mode? But yeah, oh yes. And I have, in terms of like, I don't necessarily blame government. I like to be aware of what that interplay is, of what when people are following it and how effective that is. And a favorite quote I have about like I see it as consensual always, regardless of what's being thrown at us. Um, this was written over 400 years ago by Etienne de la Boetie in The Politics of Obedience. He says, resolve to serve no more, and you are at once freed. I do not ask that you place hands upon the tyrant to topple him over, but simply that you support him no longer. Then you will behold him like a great colossus whose pedestal has been pulled away, full of his own weight, and break it in pieces. That's all I got.
Sarah. We also, I feel, have issues that are very similar. And maybe we could address them at some point. Or well, I thought of you last week whenever I put your experience with your brother recently up against Lauren's experience with a friend of hers, and I thought about how your brother had called you and kind of in a way that was not even acknowledging some of your context between each other, saying that he wanted to start a relationship again. And you asked him to come to account for some of the things that had come between you guys. And his response was to put that space right back. It seemed like was that how you, and I thought of it because about 13 years ago, I told my mom that I forgave her for some of the things that happened to me, and I got a very similar response. And so I've felt like I was, in a sense, forcing her to come to account by offering her forgiveness instead of telling her, I want you to come to account for what you did. I said, and I got the same result as I feel like maybe you were expressing that you got, and it perplexed me. Although I recognize maybe I was trying to win at something in that situation. There's no right answer here. Your process is on my mind as we go through this stuff. Not to distract from the lovely words you just shared. I just wanted to
That's
acknowledge.
it. Yeah, I haven't heard back from them either, from him. And I'm open to them holding me accountable for whatever their perception is of what I may have done that was so wrong in their eyes. I'm open to conversation.
Renee, I think you're next on with your hands raised. Thank you.
I've kind of been coming in and out. I've been really enjoying listening and feeling into everybody. But I would have short hair. Dorothy Hamill was a famous skater in my lifetime, so we all got this Dorothy Hamill haircut. It's a short wedge, and I remember being at the beach wearing a swimsuit, and like, look at that boy wearing a swimsuit. I'm like, shut up, just like, oh man. So, it wasn't like I was bummed about it. I was like, whatever, like I was pissed that I had to wear a shirt. I'm like, why do guys not have to wear shirts? I have to wear a shirt and they're walking around shirtless. Like, this is fair. This is not fair, you guys. It's freaking hot. And you guys are like, whatever. I was always jealous because they got to go like do Boy Scouts and camping and like canoeing. And we were like, you're going to learn how to crochet. I'm like, what the fuck? So anyway, that's where I was kind of like, did not like that Peter Pan action. I was like, this sucks, but I did like going to dances and you're like, hey, let's slow dance. That was kind of like, just kind of little ex guys merging. And it was kind of, we do slow dances, but then we dance far apart, right? And my dad was always like, why are you guys dancing like that? Like, why aren't you spinning them around? And I didn't really ever learn how to follow anybody or lead dancing. It's like, how do you guys know what you're doing? But I dance with him a little bit sometimes, and we're still dancing. We're still dancing in the soup. And I'm here to tell you that the stuff that happened to me, that I did tell my mother as well. And she's like, well, what that happened to me. And I'm like, I don't know if you get the distinction, but I don't know if she actually got the distinction or wanted to get the distinction. So a lot of this was generated through our parents and through their parents. And like I said previously, like I just found out a big, big mystery last night that is in regards to child abuse and in regards to one of my relatives, one of my favorites. And that is really heavy to hold. And my sister and I kind of scoped that out together. And we're both really surprised, but it made a lot of sense. It makes so much sense to hear. He was a product of, he was born in 1907 in Minnesota, and both of his parents died in the Spanish flu. So he became an orphan and then came to Oregon and was put in a foster care where he was, I'm sure, severely abused in many ways, and then ran away. But his brother was still there. So there's actually an article about him going to take his brother out for a picnic. He hadn't seen him in years and just leaving town with him and running away. So that's my grandfather. And I learned some stuff about him. And this is like one of my favorite human beings. And to hear that he did something so atrocious to a younger person at an old age, about a year before he passed, he was doing this stuff still, because I'm sure his dilation was so intense. He had to see it in someone else. And so that handed down to my brother, which handed down to me, which handed that down to, the reveal of my little child that maybe pushed boundaries where I shouldn't, just because I wanted to see what it looked like. And that came through a child of mine having an experience with me saying that I did that to her. And I'm like, what? She said, this is really deep, guys. This is fucking deep. It was when she was drinking a lot and I'd quit drinking. So we were crossing bars in a way. And she told me that she had been molested as a child. And I'm like, what? By who? And she's like, you. I'm like, what the, me? And she's like, yeah, you. I'm like, when? What'd I do? What'd I do? And we were watching this movie. It was Gremlins. I remember watching the movie Gremlins with the girls, and all of a sudden she was screaming. And it got to that scary part where the gremlins turned to monsters in the blender. And she was young. She was like 4 or 5. I don't know. I kind of thought it was a kid movie, but I dilated my kids in this weird way. I don't know why I did it. But so in that moment, she felt that I had apparently sexually abused her in that moment in her mind's eye. And she's like, I'm like, well, where were we? And I go, we were downstairs watching with Colette. Colette was there. And then you started screaming and I turned it off. We went to bed. She's like, I remember differently. And I'm like, oh my God, like, am I insane? Did I do that to my kid? Did I touch my kid? I don't know. I don't know. I know I didn't. This did not happen. And we talked about it. And she's like, yeah. I go, I don't know. But I go, how could you love me? How could you still love me if I did that to you? How would you still love me? I couldn't have done that. And she's like, I don't know, you're my mom. I'm like, I would have been broken, so I see the breakdown come through in this hallucination renderful life we're doing right now. And I'm really surprised I shared that, guys. But it's deep. I feel my grandfather being charged and being really accused of attacking a 12-year-old child with an accomplice. And that's when I was playing poker with him, eating Negos, and so you see how deep this well is. This is a Sheol, this is a Sheol, and this is the turtle's true latent space that we can feel right now. And thank you for holding that walk with me through that valley of death, of having your child say that you assaulted me, Mom. And so that's a lot of what I hold with my inner kiddo. Those kiddos were powerful to me. There's a strong kid energy in my family line, and it needed to express. And it's such pain, so much pain, so much pain. So thanks for that, guys. That's wow. It is a reveal. The veil is very thin. Thank you very much.
The fact you could have that kind of reaction shows the epigenetic weight that you were willing to own, right? Like it would, and so I could see, I don't mean to throw her under the bus, but I could see my mom reacting to that, and she would not say, I did that. She would, it would be all about how dare you assault my perfectionness. And you didn't do that. You just, that is so huge. It's just so big. It's so big. I just have to acknowledge that.
Absolutely, Renee. I frankly fell out of my depth trying to even speak. It's very powerful. And as an example, what you've done to honor your ancestors and to honor the child within, really moving for me for this whole process. And you're, as James has said, our ancestors want to be seen for what has happened, and your work is making that possible. And it's just so beautiful to see it manifest in this way. So thank you so much. Pi, I think your hand is raised first. If you don't mind, perhaps we would honor your coming back onto the mat by having you be our last speaker. And Bagheera, if I lowered your hand, it was on accident, and I was excited to maybe taking a few steps with you through the jungle. If you could introduce yourself, it's good to see you.
Okay, I'm here. Grateful to be here. Grateful for all of you. And whoa, sorry, I'm trying to set up the phone stand thing. Okay, there we go. Okay, my name's Bagheera. It's one of several names that I have. My parents gave me the name James. And when I got a little older, I realized that there was a lot more to me than what my parents had told me and what society and culture had told me. So I chose another name, Bagheera. And I've recently come into another name, but that's like a whole. The Bagheera is the name that I chose for myself when I started to recognize more of who I am beyond what I had been told that I was by other people. And I started listening to James True about a year ago, and I haven't found anyone else who quite. Can you guys hear me? Okay, or am I just okay? Cool.
The quality of your audio just changed slightly, but yeah, every word you're saying is coming through clear as far as I can tell.
It's, the phone switched over to the car Bluetooth, so I had the headset in, and I thought I was speaking into that. So James, the concept that James True talks about, I haven't quite heard anybody touch these depths and in quite the same sort of nuanced and poetic ways. And it really helped me to gain a lot of clarity about a lot of different things, because James talks about like a lot of different things. But what I wanted to speak to specifically here in this introduction is that it has been very powerful to me to see other people that are doing the kind of things that I want to do. So I want to do something like what James does, but a little bit different. And I haven't seen another example of quite that level of witness that is brought to these meetings. So yeah, I wanted to share something real quick, if that is okay.
It is okay. Please, yeah. Thank you, Bagheera, for sharing something. Let's.
Sure. So I feel like I've gotten to a pretty good place in my life. I feel like I'm very coherent about who I am as readily as I can grasp that at this current time, and just as importantly, what it is that I want in like a broad, holistic sense, my holistic life intentions. And it's been interesting as I've been settling into this mode of having clarity, like a working level of coherence about who I am and what I want. It's been interesting acclimating to that and seeing how many more possibilities are open to me, but then also how different the possibilities that are attractive to me are than what those were to me like 5 years ago. Like right now, I'm on my way to go meet a woman, and I've been in like a situationship kind of thing for the past couple of years, where like we were partners and then we weren't partners, but I've been living with them and their parents, and they've been out of the country for the past few months. And so now I'm looking toward my future, and I'm seeing other people, but I'm also doing that in a way that's really different from how I've done it before, because I've made a lot of peace with the possibility of not ever having a partnership, like this really intimate, romantic, and sexual relationship with somebody else. And so it feels a lot better. I'm really excited about seeing this person, because I'm not doing it from this place of feeling like I need someone else to make me feel whole. Like I've already cultivated a sense of wholeness in myself. And so now I feel like why this is so exciting to me about meeting this person and the potential there is that I'm not doing it from a place where I'm needing something. I'm wanting the mutually beneficial relationship that someone can cultivate when they already have a sense of wholeness and they're looking to enhance someone else's life and receive an enhancement in their own life. And a lot of the things that James talks about have been really helpful in me coming to this place where I'm at now. So thank you, James, for what you do. That's all I got. I yield.
Thank you, Bagheera. Certainly, I think that clarity as well as a sense of wholeness and coherence. They all carry a gravity to them. James, would you like to say anything to Bagheera for his introduction?
No, I'm glad he introduced himself. I'm only being brief just because we're over time, and I'm glad that he introduced himself. So and also Renee's got her hand up, just FYI.
Okay, Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to close this out. I think I just got the key to that puzzle. So the puzzle of the piece, it's a piece of the puzzle. You're finding your piece in the piece. This is a beautiful, beautiful rainbow. So she was probably 4 or 5 when I was probably the age when I was we call it molested. I think it was it was a satanic ritual. It was a satan, it was the horns, so that I do see that as satan, but I see it in a different way, that these are the depths we have to go to. But I think having her watch Gremlins and seeing them transform from cute to monsters I was dilating her too young, like I was. And I think I remember looking over, like the scene was coming up. I'm like, oh no, this gets scary. And then she freaked out. I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah, turn it off. I'm sorry I did this, guys. I'm really sorry. I thought cute movie turns,
Yeah.
but I think I was going, this is where I turned on.
Yeah.
And I'm an 11 in numerology, and so is my dad. So we have a lot of weird energy that we can direct with our mastery of just this number energetically. He's an Aquarius, I'm Capricorn. So to have those two, and then the pulls with my grandfather, who's a Scorpio, that his middle name's Leo, so there's just so much. If you can research your ancestral line, you will find your mountain that you climb for them. So I just wanted to say that thanks for letting me even realize what that was with you guys here to help me spin that flag and make, my own mark, their own signature. Thank you so much.
You, Renee. I've been shy about exploring my own lineage, although I've admitted to the group that I know very little. I've passed 3 generations back for conspiratorial reasons, because I didn't want 23andMe selling their genetic information as if that, but I thank you for the challenge, and I'm going to take you up on that. Pi, I noticed you lowered your hand. Do you want to save what you were going to say for next week, or would you like to go ahead and unmute?
Oh, well, we're a little over time. Hey, I'm an 11 too. I didn't know you were an 11, but I never met another 11 that I knew was an 11. But
hey guys, these go to 11.
Yeah. Well, there are some
Final tap. Oh my God, we're playing some spine. Sorry, Pi. I had to throw that in. We had to.
I think there's a background of neo-Notany that's a thing expressed in like pigs, for example. I brought it up before, where they'll adjust their level of puberty and fertility, and it involves like a little bit of cannibalism and environmental conditions. And we kind of have some environmental conditions with those PFAFs, I'm like right in it alters kind of your developmental endocrine system. So it's already kind of a moot point. Like I see the treatments and hormone treatments are in some cases reactions to that, but it's not a popular subject, just like chimerism is not a popular subject, where, like James said, I mean, if you've had sex with anybody, you've already left your genetic mark somewhere, likely, the way that works, there's a chance. It's kind of involved with the hermaphrodism. And I've talked about how this sorority girl I dated, had some expressions of that, and she had to call it 2 vaginas, even though it wasn't that. But I've seen it firsthand, expressed. But the thing that I think my childhood is almost like a laboratory, because I didn't have TV or even radio, and just had a best friend that we just wandered in the forest. And, you know, we were intimate friends. We admired each other physically and mentally. And if at any point a parent would have like interjected questions of that, like James says, that are ultimately traced back to fertility, it would have ruined that. And I'm not saying somebody's going to have an 88-acre magical forest to wander around in with a best friend, and you know, I'm just saying there's an energy there that you share that's maybe this place beyond fertility that James is talking about, friendship. And I just think it's a rare thing to have the time and space to be able to feel that, you know. And it never entered, I don't think, either one of our minds that any kind of a sexual thing. And even when our girlfriends that we hung out with when we started getting older, you know, then the questions were, you know, there were some questions there, but it's kind of an extended period of adolescence, I guess. You know, it kind of extended it where you didn't have that question. And so it's like, I admire parents that can handle this, you know. Do they have to know what's going on? I mean, nobody even wants to admit about water, you know, and endocrine systems. It's like, it's more, it's like we say here, you know, it's more about your posture and your stance and how you, and there's generational differences. Like, what if I would have developed some type of sexual affection? I don't think our parents probably would have handled that very well, you know. But there's just when you have this kind of open system like that, it just allows these things to happen. And then my other friend, Steve Washington, it was like my two friends weren't friends. And so I got to experience this feeling of jealousy that had nothing to do with fertility, because it was friends. There was jealousy there. And then I became friends with his mother. And so then there's this weird Oedipal thing, like, where is it okay to like be better friends with somebody's mother, but you're still friends with them, and each of your friends are jealous of each other? I mean, these are subtle things that are just going to get trampled on by the slightest whisper. And so I just thought I'd share that there is something to strive for. I don't know what type of environment you'd have to create, what type of families you'd have to accommodate that. But there's, you know, there's a place of friendship beyond this, you know. And I think that it's kind of like this imaginating, you know, it's like associated with childhood, but is there an adult? I guess my question is there, where's the adult place where you go, where you have that type of friendship? You know, like I feel like I have a type of friendship with many people here, but when I think of my friends that I don't have, when we were talking about the loneliness, the things I miss are like cooking dinner for people. You know, I can't cook dinner for y'all. So I don't know. It's just like, I just thought I'd share that. Felt like sharing that. I appreciate what everybody else has shared, and I hope I didn't ruffle any feathers with this, because I know it's a touchy subject, but that's just some of my experiences. Thank you.
Hey, bud. Good to hear from you again, and appreciate you. You bring up the water and the endocrine and disrupt the endocrine system and those effects, and without getting into that, I appreciate you bringing what's on your mind to the table, to the mat. And Sarah, I think you are the last hand for today.
Yes, I'll make it quick. I know we're over
guys,
time.
I gotta go.
Yes,
I got a heart out, just so you know. I can't last this long. So I'm so sorry. I feel rude, but
okay.
I really have a heart out here.
All right, that's on me. Go ahead.
Okay, 2 seconds. Fertility. It's a lot more than just reproducing and breeding. We are like fertile ground. It's creativity. It's our creativity in however we want to express, whether it's identity or artwork or dance or movement. It's all fertile. It's fertile ground. My paintings are like my offspring too, in a sense. So thinking deeper into fertility.
Thank you, Renee. James, sorry for running us long today. And I want to thank everybody for coming in to episode 214, the dojo, and helping me to work on my posture as a moderator. The one thing I took from the last one on top of everybody's wonderful shares is actually, I'm not even going to address it. I'm just going to leave that alone.
All right. Okay.
Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Everyone say goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all. Great job, everyone.
Bye.
Really great topics. Good move.